what if everything you thought about your own limits was fundamentally wrong? What if, like, in most moments of challenge, you're only tapping into maybe 40% of what you're actually capable of?
It sounds, yeah, almost unbelievable.
Right. Well, that's the sort of radical, often really brutal truth laid bare by this extraordinary individual we're diving into today, David Goggins.
Welcome to the deep dive. Yeah, our mission here is really to unpack Goggins' core philosophy. It's all about mental toughness, relentless self-mastery, and his almost superhuman ability to defy odds that seem, well, insurmountable.
Absolutely.
We're going straight to the source, his really powerful and unfiltered book, Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. We want to understand how his life became this blueprint for radical self-transformation.
Exactly. Because this isn't just a memoir, It's raw. It's an unflinching look at human potential. We'll explore how Goggins' incredibly difficult, sometimes horrifying life experiences forged what he calls his uncommon mindset.
Right. The uncommon mindset.
Yeah. And more importantly, we'll see how you, listening, can maybe take these principles and, okay, they're often extreme, but apply them to your own life, pushing far beyond any self-imposed limits you might be holding on to.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
So let's unpack this journey, starting right at the very beginning. Because to really grasp the man David Goggins is today, you have to go back, way back to his childhood.
And is not a fairy tale.
Not at all. His early life in Williamsville, New York, he literally calls it hell. He talks about intense physical and emotional abuse from his father, Toughness Goggins. And this wasn't just at home. It was everywhere home. The family-owned roller rink, Skateland.
Skateland, yeah. Imagine being a little kid forced into child labor, basically, living in constant terror. He even mentions getting bloodshot eyes, not just from crying, but from the aerosol chemicals they used to clean the skates.
Awful. And his mother, Jackie, she was trapped in this nightmare too. But eventually she found the strength to escape with the kids. She called the father the domestic devil.
It's precisely this early crucible, this intense suffering that's so critical to understanding Goggins. Because the toxic stress, the trauma, it didn't just disappear when they moved to Brazil, Indiana.
No way.
Instead, it manifested in big ways. He struggled massively with learning disabilities, had profound social anxiety, and was, functionally illiterate for a long time.
Wow.
He draws this really stark contrast between grouchy Sister Catherine, a nun who actually saw his struggle and patiently worked with him, understanding he needed repetition.
Okay, someone who got it.
Yeah. And then the later teacher, Mrs. D, who just focused on productivity, basically dismissed him, didn't see the broken kid behind the bad grades.
And the trauma just kept piling on, didn't it?
It really did. He lived through a horrific bus accident where another child was killed. And then when he was just 14, his stepfather, Wilmuth Irving, was brutally murdered.
My goodness.
Add to that the racism he faced as a black teenager in a predominantly white town like Brazil, Indiana. It's no surprise he calls his life up to that point a fuck you fortune cookie.
A fuck you fortune cookie. That's quite a phrase.
It is. But here's the twist, the Goggins twist. He doesn't use this as just a sob story.
Right.
Instead, this leads to his first challenge in the book, taking an honest, really brutal inventory of your own bad hand.
Okay, so why do that? Why dredge up all that pain?
Well, that's the key point. Goggins isn't about wallowing in self-pity. He insists you detail your personal pain, your obstacles, your disadvantages. Not to be a victim, but, and this is his phrase, to absorb its power and flip that shit.
Flip that shit, okay? So turn it into fuel.
Exactly. Transform that negative energy, that raw emotion, into fuel. It's about acknowledging where you started, understanding the forces that shaped you, but never ever letting them be an excuse.
It's a powerful reframing of adversity, isn't it? Turning wounds into strengths.
Profoundly so.
So after going through all that, what was the actual turning point? When did he decide to stop just, reacting to this bad hand and start playing a totally new game?
Well, he eventually left Brazil, Indiana, but he was still really adrift. Insecure, no direction. He describes himself pretty bluntly as a low-budget thug with no purpose and no future.
Wow.
The real breaking point came after he kept failing the ASVAB test. That's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. You need it to even get into the Air Force. He just kept failing. He was stuck.
Okay, so rock bottom, basically.
Pretty much. And that moment, Goggins says, was pivotal. It happened in front of a bathroom mirror, and this almost barbaric ritual was born.
The accountability mirror.
That's the one. He confronted his reflection, not with kind words, but with brutal honesty, calling himself one dumb motherfucker who read like a third grader.
Oof.
Incredibly hard. This ritual, shaving his head and face every night, staring himself down, holding himself ruthlessly accountable, that was the start. Stripping away all the excuses, all the self-delusion, it kick-started this unbelievable transformation.
Yeah, and it's that radical self-honesty that seems so key, right?
Mm.
He wasn't trying to make himself feel better with fluffy affirmations.
No, none of that. It was raw, calling himself out on every failure, every insecurity, every weakness. It wasn't about feeling better. It was about forcing himself to be better.
And this stark self-awareness, this brutal honesty that became the catalyst for this seemingly impossible goal, joining the Navy SEALs.
Right. And you have to remember, he was nearly 300 pounds at this point.
300 pounds.
You do.
And he gave himself less than 3 months to lose 106 pounds.
Less than 3 months. It's just an almost unthinkable mission.
Absolutely.
And this accountability mirror challenge, it's not just the Goggins story. He argues it's highly applicable to anyone, whatever your goals are, career, lifestyle, fitness.
So how would that work for, say, the average person?
He suggests literally writing your insecurities, your dreams, your goals on Post-it notes and sticking them on your mirror.
And yeah, his examples are blunt. If weight's the issue, he'd say, right, you're fucking fat. Own it.
Okay, that's jarring. But the point is the honesty. Exactly. It's meant to forge a thicker skin, compel action. Psychologically, confronting shortcomings head-on creates this cognitive dissonance that drives change, supposedly much more effectively than just wishing things were different.
Makes sense.
And then break down the big goals, small, achievable steps. And this is important. Celebrate the small wins. Build momentum. Reinforce the discipline. It's about relentless dedication, one honest reflection at a time.
Okay, so that leads us into the armored mind.
Yeah.
This is where Goggins really starts pushing beyond all known limits, right? Where that honesty turns into this mental fortress.
Yeah, his first attempt at pararescue training, PJ training, was a big lesson. He struggled massively with water confidence. He'd never really learned to swim properly.
Which is kind of crucial for anything spec ops, you'd think.
You'd think. And then he found what seemed like a convenient way out, a sickle cell trait diagnosis. He used it as a medical reason to quit.
An excuse, basically.
Pretty much. And what's wild is he didn't even realize he still carried that trait later in life after he'd achieved so much in the SEALs and beyond.
Wow. That really shows how easily we can rationalize giving up when things get tough, huh?
It highlights that perfectly. The mind just wants comfort, wants an exit. But Goggins went back. He returned to BUD, basic underwater demolition SEAL training, for his second Hell Week, Class 231.
And this is where taking souls comes in.
This is where he really developed and weaponized that concept, taking souls. It wasn't just about being physically strong, it was psychological warfare.
Against who? The instructors?
Instructors, yeah, but also himself and his peers. Gaining a tactical advantage through sheer mental dominance. He gives examples like stealing the Hell Week schedule so he knew what torture was coming next.
Totally.
Totally. Mimicking Psycho Pete, this notoriously tough instructor, during brutal runs, and leading his boat crew 2, in chanting, "You can't hurt boat crew 2,"
Yeah.
while they were crushing evolutions. It demoralized the other crews. He was taking their soul.
Intense. But his third Hell Week, Class 235, that story is almost unbelievable.
It really stretches credulity. He developed multiple stress fractures in both shins.
Which should be a career ender right there. Medically disqualified.
Absolutely. But his solution, get this, duct taping his entire lower legs and feet, wrapping them tight.
Duct tape. Serious.
Seriously. And then running using mainly his hip flexors, enduring agony for the first 30 minutes of every single run until things went numb. He literally turned that physical pain into proof of his toughness.
That's the armored mind in action.
That is the armored mind. Pain became a signal of strength, not weakness. It's almost incomprehensible.
How does he explain that? Like physiologically?
Well, he connects it to our biology, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight response. He argues that by consciously accepting pain, refusing to quit, choosing not to flee, you essentially reprogram your body's response.
You override the system.
Kind of. You shift your hormonal flow, you tap into adrenaline, you find that second wind. The goal isn't to avoid pain that's impossible in his world. It's to manage your mind during the pain.
So the physical suffering becomes a tool to train the mind.
Exactly. Using the crucible of physical training to control your thoughts, master your stress response, and just expand your capacity for resilience. It's mind over matter taken to the absolute extreme.
And this defiance, this pushing, it didn't stop after he became a SEAL, did it?
Not even close. After the tragic Operation Red Wings incident, 4 of his friends were killed. He felt this new mission. He had to raise money for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation.
Okay, so how did he do that?
His approach was typical Goggins. He spontaneously entered the San Diego one-day, 100-mile ultramarathon with basically zero specific training for that kind of distance.
100 miles with no training. That's insane.
Completely. And what followed was just this brutal self-inflicted ordeal, extreme hallucinations, bloody urine. He even defecated on himself during the race, but kept going.
Oh my God, that's graphic.
Yeah.
But it shows the extreme endurance.
It absolutely does. And this ultra-endurance period is where he really nails down 2 of his most famous concepts, the cookie jar and the 40% rule.
Okay, let's unpack those. The cookie jar.
The cookie jar is his mental technique. When he's in immense suffering, like during that 100-miler, he consciously reaches into this mental cookie jar and pulls out a past victory.
Like a memory.
Exactly, a memory of overcoming something huge, conquering his fear of water in BUDS, finishing Hell Week with broken legs, whatever it is. He uses that past success to fuel the present struggle.
So instead of focusing on the pain, he focuses on past proof of his own toughness.
Precisely. And his point is, everyone has a cookie jar. We all have past accomplishments, big or small, that we can mentally access when things get tough, reminding ourselves, I've overcome before, I can do it again.
That's actually a really useful technique.
Ugh.
And the 40% rule.
The 40% rule. This is probably his most defining idea. It's his core belief that most people, when they feel like they're totally done, completely exhausted, ready to quit, they've actually only given about 40% of their true maximum effort.
Only 40%.
Yeah. His ultra running, all these insane feats, they are his living proof that there's so much more in the tank if we just push past that perceived limit. He talks about removing our mental governor.
Like on an engine.
Exactly. That thing that tells us to slow down, to stop. He says we have to learn to push past it. And what makes all this even more mind-blowing?
There's more.
Oh, yeah. Later in his career, they discovered he had an atrial septal defect, a hole in his heart.
You're kidding. All this time.
All this time. It caused fluid in his lungs, made recovery from exertion incredibly difficult. So this wasn't some guy with amazing genetics coasting on talent.
No God-given talent there.
None. This was pure raw will pushing a physically compromised body to do impossible things. It completely reframes everything he accomplished.
It really does. It makes him truly uncommon among the uncommon, as he says.
Absolutely. And that relentless drive, that will, it led him to pursue a Guinness World Record.
Right, the pull-ups.
The pull-ups. He eventually set the record for most pull-ups in 24 hours, doing 4,030 in 17 hours.
Just staggering numbers.
And getting there wasn't easy either. He failed initially. Bad bar, distractions, starting too fast. He had to learn and adapt.
So he adjusted his strategy.
Totally. Slowed down, found a consistent pace, maintained intense mental focus. He even talks about mentally taking Hyland's soul. Hyland was the previous record holder. Using the competition to fuel himself. It was a mental battle just as much as physical.
So how does all this extreme conditioning translate to, like, everyday life for him or for us?
He connects it through his principles of talent not required and the 24-hour mission. This isn't just about being an athlete, it's a life philosophy.
A life audit.
Kind of, yeah. He challenges you to audit your life. Where are you wasting time? Mindless scrolling, pointless conversations, procrastination. Identify it.
And then what?
And then build an optimal discipline schedule. Break your day into 15 to 30-minute blocks. Be precise. Plan everything, even rest. Treat rest as part of the mission, necessary for peak performance.
Maximizing every moment.
Maximizing every moment for continuous self-improvement. Because talent alone isn't enough. It's about relentless, disciplined effort. That's what's required.
Sounds like a constant pursuit.
It is. For Goggins, there is no finish line. He genuinely believes we can always get stronger, more capable, more reliable, always seeking new skills, new challenges, rock climbing, learning a language, mastering a job skill. It's perpetual motion, never settling, always striving for more.
David Goggins' journey, it really is this profound, sometimes deeply uncomfortable testament to the power of the mind, isn't it? overcoming just staggering adversity, defying physical limits, achieving things most people would say are flat out impossible.
Yeah, his life truly embodies transforming that bad hand, as he calls it, into an armored mind, constantly pushing past that supposed 40% limit.
And while his achievements are, let's be honest, extraordinary, and his methods are definitely
He's
extreme,
very extreme.
the underlying principles he shares that radical self-honesty, the relentless accountability, embracing discomfort, challenging your limits, living that disciplined 24-hour mission life, they feel universally applicable, don't they?
I think so. Whether you're facing physical stuff, career hurdles, relationship struggles, or you just want serious personal growth, these tools, maybe adapted, can help you find your own hidden reserves of strength.
So, thinking about all this, after hearing about David Goggins' journey to become uncommon among the uncommon, maybe the question for you, listening, is this. What deeply uncomfortable challenge are you willing to embrace this week? What could you do to try and find your own hidden 60% and really prove to yourself what you're capable of?